Okay, turn around. Don't drown. It's spoiler time. We're just going in this week. We're going in.
You guys, don't worry. You did not somehow start 15 minutes into the podcast.
No, we're just going all the way in because you have an interesting topic you wanted to discuss, and it's going to kind of give away the game. So let's get into it.
So Mackenzie,
Lemar.
we're covering Backrooms this week. Again, horror fans eating good this summer and spring. Just a banger after banger, according to Sai. We'll get into my opinions on this one, but worth seeing for sure. And I think the only way to open this, just cold open wise, is if this situation happened to you, like you find a door where there shouldn't be a door. Are you the curious type that would actually go in and sort of wander around and like discover what you discover? Because it doesn't feel like where spoilers are out there. When Clark first goes in here, it doesn't feel like a threatening place. It's just weird and off-putting, right? So would you wander and be like, oh, what can I find in here that I can, get credit for discovering? Or would you be like, fuck this, I'm out, I'm calling the cops or the X-Files team or whoever it is to come investigate this, the Ghostbusters, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I don't think we call the cops here. That could only make things worse for sure.
They just show up and start hitting people.
Yeah, just, shooting
Stop
at things.
resisting.
Why not? God, yeah, no, not them. However, I will say, if it's this like same circumstance, right, where it's a weird door, right? Like it's not a door that just, maybe I didn't read the building size right and I find this weird door and I'm like, oh, what's down there? That's different. This is like very clearly like a different dimension, at least slightly a different dimension. No, I'm not fucking exploring that. Absolutely not. Like that sounds, at least not alone, not like this guy where he's like, I am by myself, unchaperoned. There's nothing tethered to me. I'm doing nothing to get back to this thing. If I'm going to explore something by myself, I'm going to take like precautions. There's going to be some measure of precautions to get back where I'm going. And he doesn't do that. So no, absolutely not this way. I am a very curious person. So I would probably like try to figure out how to go explore this place, but I'm not going to do it immediately and by myself. No.
You would stick your head in and just go like, hey, and try to like attract any predators and then jump back out before they can get you.
I would definitely not go all the way in. I would like, if I accidentally, had my hand go through or whatever, I'd be like, what the fuck? But I would not go all the way in without some sort of tether or something. But I would be curious. Like I would want to figure out how to explore it, just not that way. And you said something funny. You were like, it's not threatening. It's just this weird looking place. I think it is deeply threatening. Like, I think it's very clearly, there's not a good energy there regardless. And so I don't think I'm like just walking in cold.
I mean, to be fair, the first time Clark goes in, he's shit-faced, which seems to be his norm, but like he's drunk by himself. Sure. And I mean, you could say it's off-putting. I don't know that it feels otherworldly until he reaches, like the fourth or the fifth room. There's stuff like embedded in the walls and yeah.
I don't think it comes through. I think you're supposed to understand that it feels off.
It's Uncanny Valley. It's our world, but different. Uncanny Valley.
Okay. Like, yeah. But I just don't think it's... Yeah, I think you're going to get that feeling, even though all you see initially is just like this weird pile of furniture. I think you just can tell that it's weird. And if I have those vibes, I'm not just fucking walking in, I don't know. Are you just walking in? Are you just going to go check it out?
If I'm 3 drinks deep.
Yeah, if you're like Clark and you're like, I'm trashed, then maybe.
Yeah. I think, because
you just want to live in a horror movie, I think is what it is. Like you want
he doesn't know he's in a horror movie. We know we're watching a horror movie, but I feel like he's just like
you do.
Honestly, I think when I was watching it, Clark's first impulse was, oh, there's all this furniture in here I could sell. He just looked at it as a business opportunity of like, look at all this extra inventory.
Yeah, because he's doing a great job of that,
But I feel like I would wander a few rooms in, and then once there started being shit like embedded in the floors, and especially once you hear something else wandering around in there, I'm booking it. I'm done.
You're 100% out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you do what the guy does where he like goes down the like the angled tunnel, like where you clearly have to be.
I would not volunteer for that task. I'd be like, motherfucker, this was your idea. We're just the camera crew. You go look down the tunnel.
I love that he's like, he has the camera. Anyway, we'll get into it. I just thought that was insane. All right. So yeah, I'm very curious what you guys would do. Let us know. We'll have to post that and see what the people would do. It's a weird one. All right, let's roll. Welcome back to We Drink and We Watch Things. I'm Mackenzie.
I'm Lemar.
And Summer Blockbuster Month continues with a bit of a weird one. I would say an unexpected blockbuster, but a blockbuster nevertheless in terms of performance. We are covering another summer horror this summer, Backrooms.
How many summer horror blockbusters do you think there have been? Like just specifically during the season?
Ever?
Like May to July. Like May to July, when all these, typical kids are out of school, like we want to try, typically it's more superhero stuff and things like action movies. I want to go back and
Jaws?
See how many.
Like that would
I assume
be the
Jaws
only
was
one,
a
right?
summer movie. Yeah.
I think that's the only other one that would be top of mind, certainly. I mean, because Halloween is going to come out around Halloween. I don't remember exactly, but it came out around Halloween. And none of the others I can think of would come out in the summer.
It's probably more.
Maybe I Know What You Did last summer.
I mean, we'll have to go. I should have Googled it before I asked you, but I'm very curious. Like, this seems to be the summer of, let's throw a bunch of horror in May and June and see what happens.
Yeah, because what do we have? Like, just out of curiosity, so we have Backrooms, we have Obsession, which we're going to cover later, fun fact, and
Hokum was a big one. Hokum did well.
And what else? Wasn't there another one?
There's another one coming out soon, but I can't remember. I've seen the trailer like a million times because I've seen those other three, so yeah.
There's also some others that border on horror, but they're not straight up horror, like Is God Is has some like kind of horror-esque elements to it, but it's definitely not billed as a horror film.
Toy Story 5 is scary.
Toy Story 5,
we should have ended at 3, and it's like, how does this keep coming back? And
they're like, how is it still alive? How is it still alive? If you're listening,
I know it did really well at the box office. Who am I to be the dissident? But like in my day, in the 90s, this would have been a straight to like VHS sequel. I don't need more Toy Story in my life.
We are a Toy Story hater pod then, because I am over it. It's never been my favorite series, and it needs to stop. I'm personally over it. Anyway, so I'm with you. Yeah. Summer of horror. It's a weird summer. This is one of the ones, like we said, that is doing really well, and we were surprised at. So, but neither of us are 100% sold on that. So we needed to, of course, drink our way through this with what? What are we drinking?
Yeah, so we are drinking a Captain and Clark. This is 2.5 ounces of light rum, preferably Captain Morgan's for obvious reasons.
Get it,
if you've seen the film. 1/2 ounce of Cointreau, 1/4 ounce of Amaretto, 1/2 ounce of maraschino liqueur, and 1/2 ounce of lime. I will say I wanted a little more sweetener in mine, so I upped that Amaretto to 1/2 ounce instead of 1/4 ounce, because you know me. But you're just going to shake that all and strain it into a cocktail glass. And again, the Captain and Clark.
All right. Cheers. Let's give it a tasty pill.
It's interesting.
It is interesting.
It's like
something.
It reminds me of like a lemon drop, but super nutty. Like the amaretto and maraschino are making like an almondy type of flavor.
The rum for me, I'm not some of y'all, I may have mentioned this on the pod. I'm not a huge rum person unless you kind of can't taste it, and so I would probably lighten the rum on this one.
It is a lot of rum. The recipe I riffed it off of something in that bar book that we have called the Casablanca, and this basically adds amaretto to the mix. But
again, it makes sense for the story. He's a rum guy. We got a rum thing going on here, so it's appropriate. All right, kids. Backrooms 2026. It is a 7.1 out of 10 on IMDb. It has 88% from critics, 74% from audiences. I have questions. All right.
Yeah.
Our director here, just to give some background and some context, in case you didn't know, I think a lot of people know this, but he is a babe. He is 21 years old. His name is Kane Parsons. He got famous by doing this as a web series, then went on to YouTube. It was same thing, called Backrooms. And he's done one other thing, The Oldest Few, which also like web series. This has done very well. I had not heard of it, but it had done very well via these mediums. And it originates from the creepypasta thread on Reddit, which I literally had to look up what the fuck that was about.
Well,
Right
I would
after I
say
saw the movie.
4chan first, but then Reddit
Yeah,
kind of
4chan and then
segue.
Reddit.
Yeah.
And so, but creepypasta, if you don't know, is essentially like just these creepy horror stories via Reddit threads that are like, can be copy pasted. That's where the pasta part comes from. And they just spread like wildfire, kind of like urban legends, but online, right?
Slender Man was one of those, for those of you that saw
Yes.
that movie that got made a few years ago. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So I wasn't super familiar with Backrooms as being a part of this origin story. I think that's important to note because for me,
Yeah.
I think you need that to
A
be
bit of the lore.
You need a bit of the lore. I think you need to be a bit bought in. Transparently, I wasn't. I didn't know all this. I even went and saw this at Alamo, where, as many of you know, they show kind of like a lot of preview stuff and background stuff. So they pre-played some of these videos and like snippets of it, and they gave a spiel about creepypasta and all this. And so I got a little bit of a prep, but like literally right before. So I think that makes an impact here a little bit.
Also, I feel like every time we mention Draft House, because we are regular Draft House goers, and I like the fact that 30 minutes before, they're not just showing you Coca-Cola ads. You're getting some backstory and references that are going to make the film make more sense. But we do have to mention, stop fucking mobile ordering Draft House. I feel like every time we give a Draft House plug, we need to point out we are not fans of mobile ordering.
I don't even know that I can call it a plug anymore because, yes, it will start being a rant. Literally, the only reason I still go to Alamo Draft House is because I have the season pass, and you guys know the volume of movies that I see, and it's one of the only ones that does it every single day, that you can see a film every single day. And that is why I recently tested out the Regal one, because I am very tempted to switch. And to your point, the previews suck. It is 30 minutes. It's way longer. It's ad. So I would say at this point, the programming and the season pass are the only things drawing me to the Draft House, because they have thoroughly fucked it up, to be honest.
Elijah Wood's on our side. If you guys go,
oh yeah, tons of people. There's an active boycott. I'm a member of it. It's the one where you have the season pass, you go to a show, you order nothing because they lose money on that. That's all I can do, is I'm trying to do that because this is a terrible decision.
It's just, and that's the point is, we love the Draft House, but like since Sony bought it, like that's all we're asking. Just bring it back to what it's meant to be. Stop laying off employees for the sake of saving money and like doing this mobile ordering bullshit that takes away from the movie experience. We do love the Draft House and what it stands for, but just fucking fix it.
The movies are, as you guys know, like I said, like a sacred place to me. It's genuinely one of my favorite things. And Sony, this is, we knew this when when they bought in a few years ago to save it post-COVID. We knew this was potentially going to happen, and here they are ruining the movie experience. Like I can't say enough about how fucked up it is and how much it is not the Alamo Draft House way. So remember the Alamo Draft House and bring it back, motherfuckers.
This last 3 minutes of conversation was scarier than Backrooms, I think.
For real. It really was. Okay, so really quick, our writer here, who is kind of bringing this off of the Reddit threads and into the screen, is Will Sudik. He did Homeland and Westworld is probably what people are going to know him from. Pretty much TV. Those are both really good series and well written, and they both fall off a cliff. So I'm very curious how he translated this.
I did find it interesting that you have this, YouTube and Reddit creator who originated this concept and was basically writing, a story. It's obscure, but it's online. And the fact that they would bring in another writer to have him write, like I'm surprised he didn't write his own script. But to your point, it's somebody who has some experience. This guy's also done Ash versus Evil Dead, which I only watched a few episodes of, but he has some horror background as well. So It's just weird to me that you own this. You are the originator of this concept. Right. I'm shocked he wouldn't want to be the one to kind of like write it as well as direct it.
My guess, and I could be wrong because again, I have not seen the prior versions of this and maybe they were fine. But my guess is that he is brought in to provide some structure, some narrative structure, wherein maybe there wasn't as much before. Because like we have a typical story here in terms of structure a bit, albeit a weird one. So I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, but my thought is that he's brought in to give some structure to this narrative rather than have it just be this like kind of wandering thing. But did you see any of the prior versions?
I had not. And I think that actually is going to inform my opinion of this a little more as we go through today, because I don't think this is a 7 out of 10 or 8 out of 10 film. Like I have my qualms with it. None of them are really with like the director. That's why I think it's interesting, because most of my qualms are with the script. I feel like for as much as you're saying, oh, they needed a narrative and they had to add in this thing, these details, a lot of this movie,
I think that's why he was brought in. I don't think he does a great job.
Right, because a lot of this feels kind of meandering. There are like the diminishing returns on people wandering through this space and us, the tension building, it is evaporated by the second half of this, and there's way too much of it. But yeah, so I know that he's at least A24's youngest director of all time. He might be in cinema history one of the youngest directors, at least when he started this. I think he was 18 or 19 when he was put at the helm. And none of my problems are really with him. I think he shoots it really well. I think the angles and the way they play with the camera and the different types of cameras in this, VHS and whatnot, like, I know they're not actually using a VHS camera, but all that stuff is great. I just, the script itself leaves a lot to be desired. It feels throwing a lot of stuff at a wall, but also trying to incorporate these new tropes of horror that I'm kind of over, to be honest. And we can get more into that in a minute.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. Interestingly, two things. One, he is this is A24's highest grossing film to date, period, full stop, which is fucking wild to me, given some of the things that they have put out. I know they're an art house, production company, but like they have had some bangers, right? And this is the highest grossing one to date. He is also the youngest filmmaker to reach #1 at the US box office.
Wow.
Period. Which is a crazy stat. I agree. I don't think a lot of my complaints are with him. And I think you called out something interesting too about the way it is shot. I think it's well shot, which we have to give credit a little bit to the cinematographer here, Jeremy Cox. But this is a very green, very young team. I think the reason this is doing so well at a high level is how different it is and how it is trying to upend the genre a little bit. And to me, I don't personally find it super successful. I don't enjoy it, but clearly, like, I'm in the minority there, because people are intrigued by this. And I wouldn't say I'm in the minority if it was just box office, because sometimes there are those things like we're talking about where you're like, oh my God, you have to go see this, is so weird or it's so different. It doesn't mean people love it. But given the ratings against it, like people are rating it highly. So clearly the experience is impactful.
I think that's my thing, is as somebody who watches a lot of horror, I love a good, this is different, this is unique, it's trying something new. I'm a big fan of that. So maybe if I had seen this in a vacuum and I hadn't heard that it was one of the scariest movies and blah, 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 like it's so deep and da, da, da. Like without that, my opinion would probably be a little different. I think more than anything, I'm just tampering people's expectations, because I think it's one of those ones where it's worth watching. Because you've heard me say this on the pod before. I love concept. We can go full fucking concept, and maybe the execution isn't perfect, but I love taking big swings. So I like it for that, but I think there's a ton of room for improvement here.
Yeah, I also went into it with a bit of hype. I wasn't. You guys know, like, horror's not my go-to genre, and frankly, I was getting a little tired of horror summer. I've seen a lot of horrors, and I was like, I'm over it. I'm kind of tired of it. But the hype around it and how many people said I needed to see it, I was like, okay, I'm going to go see it. And yeah, it just didn't deliver for me in the exact ways that we're talking about. So anyway, we'll get into it. Let's knock out some cast and crew here as well. Oh, and again, the cinematographer, Jeremy Cox, you probably know him from Long Legs. He did,
okay.
Yeah. And he did a couple others, but that's the one that I remember the most. And then Chiwetel Ejiofor plays Clark, and we know him most from like 12 Years a Slave. I think most people know him from, but he was also, of course, in Doctor Strange and a bunch of other things. One of the things he's least well known for, I wanted to call it, was Greenwich Mean Time, which is a British musical drama about musicians trying to form a band.
Awesome.
Because why not?
I have to see.
You have to see it, right?
Oscar winner? Oscar nominee?
I think he's a nominee for 12 Years a Slave. I don't think he won. I don't recall that, no. But I think he's a nominee. Yeah.
Okay.
And then Renate Reinsve, who has been nominated for Best Actress at Cannes, I think twice now. And she has just been... There was a whole article about her after this came out, because she has only been to Cannes, I want to say 3 times, and every year she's been there with a hit, including but not limited to The Worst Person in the World, something she's most well known for, and then Sentimental Value, which I've mentioned on the pod before, is really good.
We almost did that on the pod, yeah.
We almost did that, yeah. And she's just put in incredible performance after incredible performance. She's just a fucking good luck charm at this point for them, for filmmakers in general. She's awesome. This performance is also very strong, I would say.
This was originally supposed to be Christina Milioti, like not just, oh, we want her, but they were in negotiations. I think she was tapped to play this role for months and months and months, and then finally it came time to shoot. There was some sort of disagreement, so I ended up getting passed off. I'm actually kind of glad that it happened, because now Christina Milioti is blowing up. She's in everything, and like she's so good at all this. But I feel like watching, I'll call this an indie horror. I know A24 is no longer an indie company, but like I'll call this an indie horror. Yeah. And I think that having her in this would have changed how I approached watching this movie. I think the actress in this, Renate, does a great job.
Because you think she would have been too big? She would have felt too big if it was the other. Okay.
I don't think that the psychologist in this is the main character. I think Clark is the main character, and she's just sort of tagging along and following down the abyss. So,
which I think is, we'll get into that. I agree, but I have questions about how they handled her for that reason. So, and then one of the things she's least well known for, which I thought was just a funny name, don't read too much into it, Women in Oversized Men's Shirts. That is the name of a movie, you guys. I just need you to know that's.
Is that like when you wake up the next morning and you need something to get into because you don't want to put on your good blouse?
Listen, men's big shirts are very comfy. Yeah. I will say that. I don't know that we can make a movie about it, but they are very comfy. I'll give them that. Also, we have Mark Duplass, who plays Phil. He is most well known film-wise for Creep, Safety Not Guaranteed, a couple others. I didn't. Did you?
So there's 2 films, and then they also made a TV series on Shudder out of it. And it's kind of a found footage film. I would say it's at the very least worth watching the first one to see what you think, but it's kind of like this weird dude who invites a guy to his secluded house, and it's all, found footage. So it's on like almost a VHS camera, but he's like asking him to help him through these things, and it just gets more and more creepy, for lack of a better term. But yeah, it's worth watching the first one. And then if you don't like that, don't watch the rest, but you can go forward from there if you want to.
Interesting. Okay, good to know. And I have to mention his least well-known one, because it is called The Puffy Chair. And I'm not going to give it away. I want listeners to give a Goog to The Puffy Chair. And I want you to see what pulls up, because it's intriguing. It is a mumblecore film, which I didn't know was a fucking thing. And it's a wild concept. I encourage you to check it out. I actually don't want to see it, but now I feel like I need to see it.
How many rappers are in it? You said mumblecore, so there has to be some mumblecore rappers.
There's 0 rappers in it.
What?
There's 0 rappers in it.
Well, then I have no idea how they get away with using mumblecore.
Same. I have questions. Like I don't want to watch it, but now I feel like I have to watch it. So anyway, give it a Goog. I have questions. Finn Bennett is Bobby. He's here very briefly, but impactfully. I haven't watched this yet, but he's done, apparently most recently, Night of the Seven Kingdoms, but he was also in True Detective Night Country.
Does it say who he is in Night of the Seven Kingdoms?
I'm sure it does. I didn't write it down.
We literally just watched that show in like a 1 week span. It's only a handful of episodes, but we watched it. But
I almost started to watch it last night just to find him and see how he does comparatively, but I didn't have time.
Off the top of my head, I'm not able to picture him, but I feel like I might know who he is, but yeah, I'm not picturing his face anyway.
So he's not the main dude and he's not Egg. Those are the only 2 that I know.
He's not the bald little child and he's not the 8 foot tall man, but he's somewhere in between. Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll find him eventually. He's least well known rather for Cider with Rosie, which looks really sad. Anyway, don't recommend. Lukita Maxwell closes us out. She plays Kat, and she's probably most well known for Shrinking, which is like a series on Apple TV, and then film-wise Lucky Fish, but I haven't seen that. I don't know a ton about it. But she also in Lucky Fish, least well known in Lucky Fish, she hides in a back room. So I was like, she has a theme.
She's being
She
typecast. They're like,
she's
anytime
being
there's a back room.
typecast. She's just hiding in back rooms doing shit. Anyway,
I will say, to like round out the cast, for as much as I'm going to criticize some elements of this today, I think the performances across the board are incredible. And without solid performances, this would be even worse. So,
oh, I agree. The performances are very strong. Even again, these last couple supporting who don't have a ton of time here, they make an impact with the time that they are on screen, for sure. I agree.
yeah.
Okay, quick plot summary. I know we already gave a spoiler warning, but we're going to give you the quick down low. So, after a therapist patient disappears into a dimension beyond reality, she must venture into the unknown to save him. Dun, dun,
Yeah.
dun.
I mean, that's like the last third of the movie, I guess.
Yeah, and so again, speaking to the success of this $10 million budget, which, like, if you look at it, it makes perfect sense, and I'm not knocking that. I'm just saying, set wise, you're like, cool, I get it. And then it has made to date $272.7 million. So again, highest grossing film to date for A24. That is bananas to me, because it is. I mean, so here's my thing. One of the things I read about this was Kane Parsons, YouTube prodigy.
Well, that gets my worst fact of the day, like, out of the way, because apparently there's been like a backlash again. I didn't go down a rabbit hole here, but like the different, like, just low level research, like light research on this. People are criticizing the shit out of Kane Parsons of like, why should we let a YouTube famous person like make movies? Just he's too young, and it's not that's the worst fact.
Yeah.
It's just like the worst take. You know, you can hate on it, but like, YouTube is a medium. People get into it. There's plenty of creatives on there. We talked about, I don't think we've covered it on the pod, but like Bring Her Back, or did we do Talk to Me? I don't think we did Talk to Me, but like those brothers, the twin brothers that direct those, can't remember the last name, but they YouTube startup as well. Like they had a comedy skit on there, and they ended up getting that. So yeah.
Like not a hot take on my part. I think that's a stupid take. Like, you wouldn't say the same thing about a musician who got famous on SoundCloud, for example,
right?
Or a YouTube famous musician, even a la Justin Bieber, or even like, just there's so many people who have gotten famous through social media of various kinds. If you're an aspiring artist and you start putting out films on Instagram, are people going to say that you can't make art? It's just fucking art. You know, I don't love this. I'm going to be clear. Like, I'm alluding to that. I'll be clear. This is not my favorite thing. Does that then make him not a filmmaker? No, I think he made a film. I think he made multiple films, and good for him for catching the eye of A24 in the first place, because they saw the web series. They gave him the money. He doubled down. He's also making them an incredible return. So, I mean, he's a filmmaker. That is what it is. It's wild.
Yeah.
But I do think like prodigy is questionable to me. I think he's a filmmaker. I respect the effort. I respect that this is high performing. I respect that people really love it. I don't see the prodigy in this personally. I think it's an interesting concept. I don't think it's perfectly executed. So to me, it's not reading like boy genius. It's reading budding filmmaker.
The directors of Blair Witch Project, what did they do after that? Not a lot. Can anybody name a movie? Because that's what this kind of reminds me of. Same vibe of like really cool concept, really original concept.
Yeah.
And on first watch, a lot of it is very uncomfortable and there's a bit of tension. But then you finish it and you're like, well, I don't really want to watch that again, because now I know that the tension doesn't, there's only this one point that it leads up to. The rest of it's pretty mundane. So yeah,
it's very
to your point. Like, I like that we're coming in the middle of like, he's not a prodigy, but he's also not like not a director. Like, he's somewhere in the middle.
I think he's gonna. I hope that he does more. I think he has potential. I think this is original in a lot of ways. I'm interested to see what else he does as a result. I just don't think that this is the thing that's like giving away the game of this guy's going to be brilliant. I think he's got some growing to do, and hopefully we'll see some cool stuff come out of him. But there were so many comments on various threads and reviews that were basically about how brilliant he was, but not only that, about how this just rewrote the rule book for horror. And I don't think it did. I think it leans into some pretty standard horror tropes. Yeah. And I actually also don't think it delivers on them very well. One of the things you mentioned, the suspense of it all, it's too long. It to me, you're sitting in the suspense. Like I was genuinely, yes, it was suspenseful, but I was bored at the same time, if that makes sense. Like I'm like, yeah, I'm waiting like you're supposed to in this film for something to fucking go down, but I'm waiting for 35 minutes for something to go down. And that's too long, in my opinion. It doesn't deliver.
There's two problems that the script, and I don't think you have a choice in some of this, but the two things that take away a lot of the suspense is the film establishes that anytime we're not in the back rooms, you're safe. There's not going to be any horror outside of the back rooms. And so anytime you're outside of there as a viewer, you're not tense at all.
There's rules, yeah.
And then once you get in there, you know that there are, I don't want to say physical entities, but there are things walking around. It's not as though it's random and a thing can just jump out of a wall or out of nowhere and attack you. So as they're wandering, when Clark goes in there by himself, it's very tense because we have no idea. But once they establish that it's a, physical thing that is walking and chasing you, okay, well, if it's not nearby, there's no tension. So that to me takes away like 2/3 of this wandering around the maze thing, this labyrinth. Yeah.
And the piece that I was alluding to earlier of you don't just walk in somewhere you don't know with no plan, that introduces some inherent tension for a hot second before you even realize that there's going to be something in there, that you see it, that you hear it, whatever. But again, that doesn't last very long. Like you said, you're just walking around this mundane area. And while the entrance to it is pretty atypical, early on, and there's a long period of there's no indicator really other than you're watching a horror movie and there are shitty vibes, that the film is not giving you an indicator of why you should feel tense in those moments. And it feels more to me, and this, I'd be curious your take of like, you're early on trying to understand, is this a dream state? Like, are we in a real structure that is, again, like you said, has rules inside and outside of this structure? Or is this a dream state? We've already seen that he's going to therapy. He's going through some shit in his life. He's got some personal problems. He's got a drinking problem. Is this just a manifestation of alcoholism, delusions, whatever? Should I actually be scared, or am I waiting for him to wake up? That didn't last super long, but it lasted long enough that I was like, I don't know where this is going, in a way that was kind of disengaging.
Yeah,
was like,
I feel
I'm
like
not invested in this.
As a horror fan, I always assume, yes, this is real because we need this this Mary character to go discover that it is real and have her own encounter with these monsters or whatever. So I don't think that was in doubt for me, but I do think they do they try to convince you of like, oh, he might just be having a breakdown. He's got the map all scribbled out and stuff. Yeah, that's definitely, they're trying to kind of mislead you of whether this is real or not. But I just feel like by the time Mary gets to the door and walks in, for me, the tension is gone.
For sure.
It's like her wandering through there. I don't need 5 minutes of her wandering because I know nothing's going to happen because we've established that.
And I tried, because so even when he goes to her, for example, with to your point, the drawing, and it looks like he's kind of cracking, I actually am bought into him by that point. That's not what I'm saying. Like, I get that he is telling the truth by that point. But I think early on, while he's in the space, you're like, this could go either way, maybe. But by that point, when he's talking to her, you're like totally bought into him. And I don't think that scene quite delivers to me in the way that I would expect her to react to him. Like, she seems not like harsh, but a bit dismissive. She's trying to keep it cool and neutral. She's a bit dismissive to him. And I feel like that interaction ends really abruptly because the narrative needs him to go look for proof, right? Like, he's like, I got to go prove it to her because she doesn't believe me. But I'm not even bought in on that interaction being the premise for that. You know what I mean? Like, you don't get enough time for him to go on this adventure and go, I have to go prove this. Yeah. That feels like there's a disconnect there for him to even go back and do that. 2
points there. The first one is I totally agree with you because I'm no psychologist, psychiatrist. I'm going to use them interchangeably. I know one can prescribe drugs and one can't. That's the main difference. But I don't know which one it is. But I don't know how common it is that just alcoholics, like that's their only thing. They're alcoholics. They have anger issues. I don't know how often they have psychotic breaks that you would assume that's what's happening here. Like, any guess there?
I mean,
Does it make sense that she would think this guy who drinks too much and just got out of a divorce had a psychotic break? I don't know how often that happens.
Well, I think you're actually hitting the nail on the head inadvertently there, in that I don't think it even matters if that's statistically true, because one, I don't have the stats on that. But two, I think you don't get enough is the point. You don't get enough of a buy-in of, maybe there is more to his story. Again, he's like a budding architect and he's running a furniture store, and like you get that nugget, and you get the marriage is falling apart as a result nugget. You get that he's in therapy because has these problems, plus he's drinking nugget. It is not enough, those three little nuggets, to tell you he's having a psychotic break. I agree. So I think like she wouldn't assume that in that session. In theory, she shouldn't assume that as his therapist, that he's just having a psychotic break. And I think that's poor writing to try and assume that.
Okay. I might actually be talking myself into something here, because my other criticism, I think the Clark character is super well defined. I think the way they write Clark, and it's like, at first you kind of want to like him. Like, it's like, oh, he's trying to better himself. He's going to therapy. But then you realize he's just kind of an asshole, and he's looking to be proven right. He wants his like doctor to tell him, yeah, you were right. Your wife should have left, and like you were taking care of her, and he's not getting what he wants out of that. And he's drinking, and we see his life at the store, and we see the way he talks to just general people when he's sober. Like, he's an asshole. I think the Clark character is completely fleshed out. On the opposite
I don't think
side,
he has psychotic break fleshed out.
Well, here's what I'm getting at, is that on the opposite side, this doctor is not fleshed out at all. I hate the fact that really the only character development we get out of her is in flashback form. We just see her interactions with her mom. We don't really see, outside of like, I think one phone call she makes.
Her mom's an agoraphobic, like, really.
But that is where I think, and this is what I'm talking myself into, because I hate how unfleshed out her character is. But with the fact that we constantly flash back to her seeing her mom having a psychotic break, and out of nowhere being like, we're not going outside, it's sick out there, you're not allowed outside, would that lead her to make these guesses when she's a doctor of, oh, maybe this person's having a psychotic break? I might be making a really big bridge there of the gap, but I might be talking myself into that, honestly.
I could see both sides of it. I could absolutely see you being trying to talk yourself into it, because I don't think there's enough structure to the story to warrant some of the things that happen. But I also think it is a bit of a reach, because I think she hasn't fully processed her trauma, or we wouldn't keep getting fucking flashbacks of it, right? Like, her mom, and it's important, I think, to note a difference between a mental illness and a psychotic break. And I'm not trying to be corrective. I'm trying to take those things seriously. I think her mom is an agoraphobic, which is not the same. And so that's a mental illness that prevents you from going outside for potentially all kinds of reasons. And maybe there's some paranoia tied into that. This person has obviously overcome that hurdle and has worked through a lot to be able to even be in a position of giving therapy. It does not then assume that all of her issues are resolved. I'm not saying that. But I think it muddies the waters enough that you see why she's worried about him. And she starts to have an attachment to him that maybe most therapists wouldn't, because I think you need that connection and that premise for her to even go to the furniture store to find him and check on him. And but it's all a reach. That's what I'm saying. Like, there are kind of some tethers here, but it all feels a little bit unrealistic for us to even get to that point.
It's also like the payoff. I feel like you could tell that story of just a concerned psychiatrist who's like, my patient who normally doesn't show these things is now completely flipped a switch and is now gone missing. I think you could tell that story.
There's a stark contrast, yes, to like appointment to appointment of his behavior. So you could
so it's pretty sudden. But you don't need. I wrote this down. I was just like, this is one of the tropes I was talking about. I feel like in modern horror, it's this thing where they feel like every horror movie needs to have some deep emotional like trauma or something where it's like a metaphor for something that happens in real life.
You're like,
I don't think that's the case.
And just be running after people trying to kill him. Like, can we just fucking try to murder people? Is what you're looking for.
I don't need all of that, and I don't want to have to go read a bunch of lore and explanations for this whole thing is like a metaphor for his psyche, and this is his version of himself when he was with his wife. I don't want to do all that. Like, it's just a lot more fucking work than when I want to go see a scary movie.
So here's the deal. I know I'm contradicting myself here because I'm Miss Elevated Horror Snob, but I hard fucking agree with you in this context because here's my thing. The thing I like about, say, for example, the Babadook that we all know that I like, that to me is a standalone. You can like read into it. You can analyze the metaphors happening. You can, whatever, all by itself with no background. You can just watch that and fucking go if you want to, if that's your vibe. This, to me, I feel like I couldn't appreciate this without the background. I don't, like, to your point, I don't want to do all that homework to understand why I'm invested in this. Can I grab at things about the, metaphor of memory and how it disintegrates over time and how you could look at these various iterations of themselves and how that could cause you to have some of these disconnects to prior versions of yourself and your life and your experiences, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, we could dig into that. We could like try to figure it out and find that thread. But here's the thing. I am exactly the person who goes and does that and overthinks the thing. Everything is hard to reach here. To me, I'm like reaching for reasons this is happening. I'm reaching for him being a furniture store salesman, despite being an architect who loves beautiful spaces. And what does this say about what his life has become a caricature of, that he's in a cheap furniture store? And you like, but again,
I mean, I would assume it's because he's a fucking asshole, but
it's probably that he's an asshole. It's probably because stuff happened that was out of his control, blah, 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 blah. But I just feel like they're trying to take us down a pathway, is what I'm saying, of this having a more intense meeting, a deeper meeting. And it's all just far enough out of reach that you're having to work too hard for it. Like you said.
When we get to the exposition that it's Clark kind of explaining his definition of this play. And I thought, okay, let me backtrack a little bit. I said every horror movie feels the need to put trauma and some sort of emotional tie in. I think, for the record, again, Clark's character would have been sufficient. Okay, he's an asshole. He's scared off his wife.
She doesn't need more trauma also.
She does not, because what does that contribute except for putting a fucking random piece of concrete in her pocket to hit the monster with? That's all it contributes to the story. And it feels so stupid. Some people will say,
and it takes you out of it several times throughout when we do those flashbacks and she's grabbing the concrete. Like it feels so disjointed, and then you only get it later with the concrete, and it's not a good enough tie-in. I read one comment
for this. I read one comment that was like, oh no, because when she gets to the store and the door is blockaded with concrete, it's to show she's scared of being locked in a place. I'm scared of being locked in a place with a monster too. It doesn't have to do with past trauma. I didn't need this whole thing of her flashing back just for the purpose of putting a rock in her pocket.
She can just have claustrophobia to have claustrophobia. Like, you know what I mean? Like, what? We don't need all that. I agree. And it's like, it's such a reach for it to be this one little thing at the very end.
And by the time we reach the exposition, the first one where Clark sort of turns evil, chokes her out, puts her in a chair, and he's monologuing with her. That got a little silly already, but I was like, okay, I can stomach it. If this is like having to do with his mind and it's a mental break, but he's created this place where he can be who he really is. Okay, I'm on board.
Why would he call her back? Like, call her and say, I'm never coming back. Like, just, there's so many moments in his breakdown that don't make sense to me, because if he's truly having a psychotic break and gonna give himself to the Backrooms, he's not gonna call his fucking therapist to let her know. And then he gets in there and he's not going to, he sort of tries to protect her and save her, but then he actually takes her captive, and it's all in an effort to get her to have this final therapy session with him.
To tell him that he's right, To
tell him that he's right, and in a space where he's already accepted his new reality, which is, you know, this insane alternate reality. He doesn't need that anymore. Like, I just don't think it connects. I just think there's so many almosts here that it's really frustrating to
Yeah,
watch,
they
actually.
could have just ended it there with Clark. Like, I think you can, again, I might be bridging a gap, but I think you could say, okay, before he makes that final trip into the back rooms, there's still some part of real Clark there where he's reaching out to her and saying, I'm just trying to prove to you that I'm right, which ties into the psychology situation. But he goes in and that's where he breaks. We don't know how much time has passed. We see all the leftover mail. So he's been in there for a minute by the time she shows up.
Mm-hmm,
I will say
mm-hmm.
he has his break there. He embraces the insanity of this and he's like, I love it here. I can be a total fucking asshole, which is what I've always wanted to be.
Oh yeah,
That
he's like screaming
Clark,
at the other memories in the space. Like
yeah,
it's
Clark
yeah.
should have been the final villain. I don't think we needed to then reveal that there's this weird
Yes. Yes,
pirate
yes.
Clark, which is a great character design, but I didn't need that, honestly.
Well, okay, so I agree with that wholeheartedly. One of the things that I read that I wanted to talk about was exactly that of like this disjointed, unhinged version of him, both him in the backrooms, but also this pirate Clark as a monster, and it trying to be his like literally what I read was it being a manifestation of his buried rage, his id of this like where he is so angry for his failed life that this is the form that it has taken and this is what it's attacking in this space, but it's attacking him, it's also attacking him. And that to me, like, I didn't think that connected, that this version of him would turn on him and start to kill him and then spur her into escape, because I was like, they are two halves of the same coin, and if anybody should be able to control pirate Clark, it's him, because he has committed himself not only to this space but to this breakdown and to this rage. And if this is a manifestation of his rage, which again all of this is reaching, then fine, but he should not be killed by it, right? Like
Right.
he should be able to talk to it. And yes, there's an argument to be made of like, anger only kills the subject and it eats you from the inside, whatever. We can have a whole different conversation about that. But there's there again, it's trying too hard to do too much with that. And with the rules that have been established in this space, albeit briefly, I don't think that makes sense. I don't think that makes sense for him to kill him and then go after her. What has she done to Pirate Clark? Like in this time frame, in this space.
Yeah, I'm going to do a compliment insult thing here. The set design is probably the high point of this film, I think. The set design is
Yeah.
incredible. The different back rooms, that like infinite staircase that we see at some point, and I guess the theory is the lower you go, the more distorted and fucked up the memory gets. I think that's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
But the lore of this and what it's actually trying to say is just super hard to follow and seems nonsensical, but it also doesn't seem like something that you are able to explain. So why even bother trying to explain it? By the time that Phil comes in and he's like, we designed MRI machines and now we're studying this. And I'm checked out. I'm so expositioned out.
I don't care. I have no investment in that exit strategy. The one thing that I sort of got into, again, this took research after the fact and it shouldn't take this, but it was like it's his own refusal to face himself and his own failures and limitations that did this. That's why he is kind of killed by himself in that context of he can't face his life and deal with his life and what have you. Fine. Okay, I can get past that. One, I don't understand why the fuck she's there. It doesn't make sense. This back room has also become a manifestation of her trauma, and it appears, and it's almost what you end with, right? You end with her liminal space changing and devolving and slowly breaking as you go down through the layers and falling more and more apart. And I'm like, I'm not even invested enough in that story for that to be an impactful ending.
Well,
And
what are the stakes there? If it's literally just this thing remembers you and makes copied versions of you, but it's not you, it's literally filled with stuffing, but it's just this mirror remembrance of you, that takes away from the ending because that's not her. It's just this imaginary creature locked in the universe. So I'm like, I don't give a shit.
This is what I mean by I keep saying it's so close to something.
Yeah,
It's so
yeah.
close to something that could be scary. Like this idea that there's this molecular memory that has iterations that can be damaging, that level 1 is one version, level 2, level 3, all the way down. And it is disintegrating as it goes down. And that's informing that reality. And that reality is changing and becoming a threat to you as it disintegrates. That's a scary concept. That is a cool concept to me. This just doesn't fucking deliver on that.
Yeah.
I'm like, I want to be scared by that. I'm not. I'm checked out. I'm not interested. And like you said, we get async, we get Duplass here at the end as Phil. And you get this one snippet of him earlier where he's seeing the commercial and understanding who this guy is in the furniture store. There's no fucking payoff there as far as I'm concerned. And then you see him at the end and he basically tells her, like, I don't know if you're going to be let go.
I mean, I guess it's like to try to anchor it in reality, to your point of like, we know it's not a break, a psychiatric break or whatever, or psychotic break, sorry. Like, I guess that's why the Phil character exists, to show us that this is real and there's a science behind it, but he doesn't have any real explanation.
They've shifted from like making MRI machines, but to trying to discover what this Backrooms is. And as a business, I'm genuinely like, what?
You would make so much more money giving MRIs. It's 1990. You're like on the way, man.
This is where you're going to make money with the MRIs. No, really. That sounds stupid, but I'm also so serious when I say, why would you shift your business model to this? We're supposed to buy into this shift of the business model. What I want to know, and again, could make it scarier, is why do you feel like you can monetize this? Why do you feel like this is a business? Because again, healthcare is the most profitable business in America. What are you doing to switch your business model to understanding and developing inside of these back rooms? You're literally pulling autopsies on Captain Clark in the back. What is that going to do for async? That is scarier. That is more interesting to me than this. Because are you going to put people in this space?
Right.
Are you going to monetize this? And how are you going to monetize this? And you just get these tendrils of what it could be. Now, the one asterisk I'll say is supposedly, and I don't know if this is true, this is a precursor to the series continuing. And that's what the YouTube does, is it makes this into a series. Maybe that gives us more. Maybe that explains some of this more. But I have no interest in watching it based on this version.
Yeah, I mean, I will say in defense of creepypasta, 4chan, Reddit, all that stuff, a lot of the stories are meant to be obscure and sort of find your own meaning in them, which is fine. Like Slender Man, it was just, there's this this skinny guy, and he's like this giant white figure, and like he just appears and he stalks you. There's no logic given to it, and that's just what makes it creepy. This could have been that, but then they have 2 exposition scenes at the end that try to explain what's happening, and that takes away from it a little bit. If you want to leave it open to interpretation, leave it open, but don't try to have science explain it away.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, listen, I am if you know, like the Green Ribbon Girl. I love a scary story. I love a creepy story. It can be, my niece, shout out, just got her first published very short scary story, and in my opinion she did more in 6 sentences, because it's that short, to creep me out than this whole movie did. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, it doesn't have to be this complicated to be scary.
You said this is a 6-sentence story?
No, I'm saying my niece wrote, she just published her first scary story, and the premise was that you have to write a scary story in 6 sentences. And it was creepy down to the last line. And what I'm just saying, this film spends, a couple hours trying to creep me out, and I am disengaged rather than invested in where this is going, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
and I know I'm not a typical horror audience, to be fair. I'm always critical of these kinds of stories because I'm always skeptical of them. But I think it's telling, actually, that you and I, who are on very different ends of that spectrum, are having a similar experience, actually, with this one.
There's just an element missing, and I'm not saying this is not unique, and it's different to its credit. So I'm not criticizing that it's an original, interesting idea, but there's an element missing, whether it's the scripts needed to be tighter, there needed to be like humor, like comedic beats to break up sort of the
Yeah.
mundane feeling throughout. Maybe it needs more
Mundane.
scares because we spend so much time just sort of wandering through. We could have used 15 more minutes of fucking VHS camcorder footage. That was the best part
For
of the film.
real.
Was that
I was
first
actually
person viewpoint.
exactly. I agree. The VHS footage was great. One of the scarier moments, even though again it's all relative because it wasn't that scary to me, but the scariest moment in my opinion is when the VHS recorder gets picked up
Yeah.
by the other entity, and you don't know. You obviously know there's another entity in there, but what you're learning about it in that moment is that it's sentient enough to grab the camera and try to use it, right? So like that's interesting to me. We could have done more with that. I agree.
Like he knew the power of the camcorder, so he was like, "My name's Pirate Clark. Welcome to Jackass."
Would you like to buy furniture on clearance? No credit required. I'm your guy.
I also really liked at the beginning the Clark filming the advertisement. I feel like this didn't lean into the 90s of it all enough. Maybe it was just a way of getting rid of cell phones, but I feel like there's more 90s stuff to be.
I agree with that because I just thought, like, I'm looking at this furniture store and I'm like, this is such a throwback. Like, we had this furniture in our house. Again, shout out to the puffy chair that I called out earlier. Very similar vibes here. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to be able to relate to this. No, not even a little bit. It was so weird.
There's also one other fix that I could potentially add here is, do you think it would have been better if there were more characters involved? Because then you could have a little bit of fodder where you could have people go in and get killed or like be on VHS and they go miss it. Like that could have helped to break up the story a little bit, I feel like.
I mean, I think that would introduce some entertainment. I agree with you, and just like some fucking action. I don't think it complements the story. Again, I think they are 3 breaths away from something here. You know what I mean? Like they're so close. It's so close. And I'm not the person to do it, by the way. I'm not criticizing that I like have the answer. I just feel like we are so close to doing something really creepy and scary and unique here, but we don't quite get it done. And that was the thing that was disappointing to me. Because again, I've mentioned before, and it sounds silly, but I'm serious, how the things that have creeped me out in the past and other stories are not your typical horrors. It's not something that follows all the rules of tropey horror. It's the being trapped in a place. It's the like not having control and be like reverting to a baby in 2001: A Space Odyssey. It's being trapped in Stargate in a different world. Like those things are very scary. And this touches on those in this liminal space that is a copy of a copy of a copy of a memory. There's stuff that could be done here to make this fucking creepy. And I just don't think it happens.
I will say to that point, something we haven't discussed. I do think the memory entities, aside from Pirate, I think Pirate Clark is a cool creature design. I think the other entities that are in there, the guy in the chair and then the redheaded woman, those are,
they're weird.
When we first encounter them, I was like, fuck, okay, I'm on board. But then they just kind of end up again being like background for the Clark reveal. I just
they
wrote
don't
down
do enough to be rooted in any, like there's no real fear of them for like once you see them sitting there for more than 30 seconds, it's like you said, of just like I'm on the edge of my seat, but I'm not. Oh, I eventually am not.
They put my focus when I start watching this movie, or at least halfway in, my thoughts shouldn't be going through my head. I wonder what the backrooms are. What is this play?
Yeah.
That's not my concern. My concern should be what's going to happen to these characters that we've developed, and this like psychiatrist who's caring for her patient. Is she going to be okay? And it just feels like with the Clark reveal and the way that plays out with the Pirate Clark killing him, it's like, oh, we've completely thrown the character shit out the window. Now we just want to know what the fuck is this place. And that's not what I really care about, honestly.
No, I think the place is intriguing, sure.
It's a cool setting, but it's not my number one concern.
No, and I think it's highlighted by the fact that it is so mundane, that it's these weird, leftover offices that somehow hold the memories. Again, like that's so much more compelling to me, that somehow hold the memories of these completely different places, right? Like her house is not there. His house isn't there. These various, like the kitchen that he's in is clearly his kitchen. And the scariest moment in that room is completely overlooked. He's got Kat's head in the refrigerator. There's no digging into that and how that happened. You are also unsure if he did that. And I think, sure, the assumption is that he didn't, but also did he?
I would assume he did, actually. I felt the opposite.
Well, I think you're supposed to think that Captain Clark did it, but did he do it? And why? And was it an accident? And has he leaned in? Because he says, I tried to warn her. Like, let's stop monologuing about your fake fucking therapy session and tell me what happened there. Like, that's, again, we're just like, we're so close, but we're not there.
The mirroring, like the role play scenes at the beginning and the end, I did like that. Again, don't love how it ends 5 minutes later, but I like that he forces her to be like, we're going to replay this night my wife left me, and this time you're going to tell me that I was right and this was her fault. And I like that mirroring there, but again, 3 minutes later, it's all undone because he gets eaten by this fucking monster.
Yeah. I wanted more in general. I think the hype didn't help for me personally. I think not being a huge horror film fan didn't help me personally. But again, you're a huge fan, and I think it says a lot that we have some of the same qualms. I think where it's getting people maybe is they already know the lore, they were fans of some of this story, and or they are invested in the concept of a series. I have a good friend who that's what he said to me, where he was like, I'm excited for the series of it all. I want to see where it goes. And I'm like, you'd be hard pressed to get me to watch the series, to be honest with you. I mean, just me personally. So I don't know. Do you have a worst fact? Do you have a worst fact?
Well, my worst fact, we kind of covered it with the director at the beginning. My worst fact isn't because it's a bad IMDb fact. It's just the worst because it's like, why is this happening? And it was the fact that people were just criticizing this director for being YouTube famous.
I think that's stupid. Dude, I agree with you. That's not.
But it does give me the opportunity to go back and say, I believe the directors have talked to me. Their original YouTube channel was Raka Raka, and I believe it's David and Michael Philippou, the Philippou brothers. I think they're Aussie or New Zealand. I know that's going to piss them off if they do hear this because I don't know which one they are, but it's the Philippou brothers. So credit where credit's due.
Yeah, I don't know that one, so I can't fact check you. But okay. Real quick then, do you have a golden garnish? What is your favorite? What's your MVP here? What do you think?
I guess you have more knowledge of cinema than me. Who designs the sets in this case? Is this a director's vision? Who is building?
Production designer, set designer.
I would probably give it to that person because I think that's the coolest part of this is wandering through and seeing all of this chaos. And just how neat it looks, and it's like different versions of different things. I think there's a lot of creativity here in such a minimal space. So I'd probably give it to them, honestly. I think Chiwetel Ejiofor does a great job as Clark. I think his performance is great, but it can't save some of the downsides of this one.
Yeah, I would say the performances are, I mean, I agree with you. I'm trying not to take the one that you're saying every time because I actually agree with you on the sets. But what I will say is I think the performances are very strong. Yeah. I think if I had to pick one, they are completely committed to the bit here. You know what I mean? And he doesn't always play this type of character. I actually liked that for him. This is a bit of a departure for him. And he does it very convincingly insofar as you absolutely think he's an asshole the whole time.
I like that they have him be like when he's they introduce him through that commercial at the beginning and he seems like a likable local businessman, and he has moments in here where he's kind of vulnerable. Cut away
to he's being a dick to the people filming it.
Like he's like that is a facade. He's trying.
But that's what I'm saying. The likability of him is fake, and and the real part of him is an asshole, and I like that version of him. I mean, I bought that version of him as the performance delivers it. So yeah, I would say their performances, our two leads, are the big wins for me. And I just wanted more for them to work with. I think, you know? All right. So all that to say, I think we're kind of on the same page here, but what would you say is your rating?
I mean, it's a 7.1 on IMDb, I think you said.
Yeah.
It's one that people should...
Also, it's 88% from critics. I need y'all to like really register that.
Well, but that's the thing is we know that the Rotten Tomatoes, it's like, should you see it or not?
I hate the Rotten Tomatoes
I know,
rating.
Mackenzie does not like the way that works. I'm going to give it a thumbs up on like, should you see it? Yes, but I don't think it's like an above average horror film. I think it's borrowing from this last decade since like Hereditary of every fucking horror movie needs to have some sort of trauma to make it like grounded in reality. I just think it's borrowing from a lot of things. I don't think the scares add anything new. I think a lot of the movie is really meandering and fucking boring. The script is not tight enough to keep us invested. It's not funny. There's some really cool stuff about it. I think the set design is great, but I think at the end of the day, like, it's watchable, but I don't think it's incredible. So I'll give it like a 5.5 personally.
Yeah. I'm almost exactly like 5.5. I don't know. I don't have a lot to give it. I wanted to like it. I will say, like, you heard it here first, folks. Lemar has slowly converted me to an interest of horror. Like I don't know all the rules and I don't know all the lore, but I am at least intrigued by it. And I wanted to like it based on the hype. And I just was not, I went out of there bored. I went out of there annoyed and was not for me.
I literally almost fell asleep, and I wasn't even that tired, but there was a point of this that I almost fell asleep because I was just like, okay, I know that they're just in the thing, and I'm like dozing off. So yeah,
it's just, and I was like, and I again hold the movie watching experience sacred, and especially at the Alamo, and I instinctively almost wanted to grab my phone and do something else. You know what I mean? Like just Google something or look something up because I was like, I am so bored right now. So yeah, hard agree. Like a 5.5, I think. Who knows? Maybe they'll make it into a series like has been suggested, and maybe that'll make it more interesting. I don't know.
I think you could tell. I mean, I haven't watched any of the YouTube series, but I feel like you could tell a lot of interesting stories in here in this setting. But this is just a start, and who knows?
I also just think that even if you are going to base something off of a series, but you are then going to make a standalone version of it, not a continuation, not a reboot, like a standalone version of it, it has to be something that on its own can get you invested. And I don't think this did that. I don't think it did that. So, all right, kids. Well, this was not our favorite, if that wasn't clear. That being said, come back next week where we're going to cover another blockbuster, another summer blockbuster. This is a Spielberg outing. We're going to talk Disclosure Day, which is a big release and also feels simultaneously like it came out of nowhere. So anyway, we're going to do that one.
It's like Steven Spielberg's 800th Alien movie. He just loves going back to that well.
I don't know if that's a well that's for him. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I have questions. So we'll get into it. But yeah, we're going to do that one. And if you want to see it before this, before that comes out, you got to go see it soon. I think it just came out a couple weeks ago, but it is in theaters now. So go check it out. Cool. But in the meantime,
follow us on our socials. We drink and we watch things on Instagram. Go ahead, follow us, leave us comments, DM us, and you can always get the video of this podcast on YouTube or Spotify video.
Indubitably. All right, kids, for now, go have a drink and watch a thing. Cheers.
Cheers.